There is a lot of content in the FIRE movement about what to do to achieve FIRE, but I definitely wish when I started out there was more content on what not to do. So today, we are going to take a look at the common pitfalls and mistakes to be aware of and avoid on your financial independence journey. 1. Overanalyzing or not taking action. Without doubt, the most common mistake I see people making is overanalyzing when it comes to investing. For some people, that may mean that they don't take action and keep their money in cash for years whilst they are trying to figure out the optimal investing solution, or even worse, paying thousands of pounds on property education instead of just buying that buy-to-let property. For others, this may be spending hours and hours researching and deliberating whether they should invest in the Vanguard Life Strategy 100 fund or the Vanguard FTSE Global All Cap, and maybe even chopping and changing between the two. At the end of the day, most globally diversified funds and or solid vanilla buy-to-lets will get you to your goal of achieving financial independence. The most important driver is getting started with a sensible investing plan and sticking to it for the long term to let that compounding machine get to work. Number 2, being too frugal and sacrificing too much in the present. We've all been there. A few weeks after stumbling across the Mr. Money Moustache blog, we are taking sandwiches into work, eating rice and beans every night for dinner, while sitting in a freezing cold house as we are trying to cut the energy bills down. Or maybe that's just me. Joking aside, there is a huge focus in the FIRE movement on frugality and increasing savings rate, which is good, but I think it's very common for people to take it to an extreme, sometimes while sacrificing current levels of happiness. Many people will spend far too much time on trying to save money, spending hours and hours on over-optimizing. For example, doing their groceries shop across a number of different stores to get all the best deals, or constantly monitoring and switching their savings around to save a small amount on fees, etc. Becoming too frugal and saving too much money can dramatically reduce your current levels of happiness. Cutting spending on things that don't give you value can be helpful, but equally, spending money on things and experiences you value is good too. The key to overcoming the pitfall of being too frugal is to find a balance. Increase your savings rate over time while still spending money and time on the things you enjoy, and at some point, you will find your healthy savings rate. And over time, as you get closer to FIRE and compounding starts to kick in, you can even start to spend a bit more without too much impact on your time to FIRE. At the end of the day, once you can get into the position of saving a decent chunk of money each month, having a coffee or a few drinks with your mates every now and then isn't really going to move the needle much at all. Number 3, getting sucked into hustle culture. Passive income. The internet seems littered with passive income gurus these days, and there is a huge movement towards the so-called hustle culture. This can make people think that the only way to get ahead is to try and spend every possible spare minute of your day trying to make more money. But in my experience, plenty of things just aren't worth the time, especially if you have a relatively well-paid job, and certainly not worth the time for anyone with a super high-earning job. You'd probably be much better served working harder at your day job to get promotions, etc., instead of doing some random online fad in a bid to make a bit of extra money or spending time filling in online surveys, etc. If it's a passion project that you enjoy, then by all means get stuck in. Just remember to take some time out to enjoy yourself along the way. Number 4, lack of flexibility. One of the big distractions when discovering FIRE and the 4% safe withdrawal rate is that it sets a goalpost that people feel like they need to rush towards as quickly as possible before they can be happy. Getting your stash to 25 times your annual expenses becomes the be-all and end-all, but this goal is a distraction to the real purpose of FIRE. Getting more control over your time to design a lifestyle that aligns with your values and ultimately makes you and your family happier. I believe FIRE can and should be flexible as you go through your journey. Even routes to FIRE such as CoastFi and BaristaFi still have rigid guidelines or rules attached to them. The more you build your nest egg and get closer to full FIRE, the more options and control you have over how you spend your time. But even saving up enough money to cover 1 year's worth of expenses could prove to be life-changing if it allowed you to retrain into a different career path that is more enjoyable or take a mini retirement. Number 5, not knowing what you are working towards. The final point, and probably the most important, is not knowing what you are working towards. I often read blogs or hear stories of people that went from high-earning, high-status careers to suddenly hitting their FIRE number, racking it all in and doing nothing, and they find that they lack routine and purpose, sometimes resulting in struggles with depression and other mental health issues and relationship breakdowns, etc. As disappointed as many of us are to hear about these stories, it turns out that early retirement is not always what it's cracked up to be. Waking up whenever you want, chilling in the morning with a nice coffee, etc. all sounds great in theory, but then what? What do you do for the rest of the day, or the next day, or the next week? Most of your old friends are probably at work all day. 50 years retired can be a depressing and lonely existence. Don't get me wrong, I'm a hardcore FI fanatic and love the potential that it provides. But you definitely need to have a plan of what you are working towards. Whether it's travel, a more rewarding job, spending more time with family, it's different for everyone. If you know what you are working towards, then maybe it's possible to design a lifestyle that incorporates some of these goals now, without having to wait for 10 to 15 years to get there.